And I find no issue with it because, I just got back from the state auditors conference and my jaw dropped because the average salary right now that all state auditors are paying is $50,000. I asked this question, I said, what? Straight out of college, no experience, $50,000. Most of their management team are upwards of $100,000. And
but once that $50,000 salary is
I
straight
have
out,
no qualms with paying that. I think it's worth it.
the additional bonus on top of the increase that you're now getting because you managed to get through the legislature are concurrence that we're going to adopt the Kerry study. And for the office with the 10 employees that you have or whatever number you have, you need $60,000 for the certification or pay, or is that's in the event somebody else gets?
No, that's already funded. That's already funded. That's already in our That's if you turn to the schedule, we're talking $60,264 is the certification pay for 1, 2, 3, 6 individuals.
Okay. I have nothing further. We stand in recess until...
Mr. Speaker, if I just may say, you and I both are very passionate. And I'll miss this exchange. Thank you.
I will need an additional $70,000 just to pay for the certification pay for those on my staff that are qualified. It wasn't in my budget request because I didn't ask for it. But if this legislature is going to leave it in the budget, then I will have to comply and provide them with their certification adjustment, and that would cost the office an additional $70,000. So I just point that out. But I can't tell you how wonderful the 5 Auditor 3s that stepped up to take over the management team of the office has been, and how smoothly it has run since then. They've taken over, and I feel so bad that they can't get one. We can't reclassify 3 of them, 4 of them. I mean, because all promotions and increments were suspended during the fiscal year. So I can't do any reclassifications and give them increments as minuscule as it is by comparison. But it is the Office of Public Accountability, and we have to live within the law, and we will live within the law. And if it is provided to us, we'll provide it to them. If it's not, then we'll have to tell them that it's not going to be provided.
So the BPT of 5%, do you think that can already be brought back to
I have made
4%?
my position about that, and I have said that I don't want it rolled back. I'd like to see what fiscal year 2020 and fiscal year 2021 gives, because as a result of what has happened, we were able to actually also close the gap as a result of President Trump's Jobs Act legislation that took away about 68 million from our general fund. So those are the kinds of things that I am really looking at, Heidi, before, and I, like I have said, I have spoken to many business leaders also, and they are okay with the 5%.
Will that stay at least until 2020, fiscal year 2021, so 2022, there might be a
I would like
consideration.
for it to stay, and I'd like for it to stay forever.
Many accolades and celebrations. Buenas, Micronesia. I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
Welcome to our studios here in Tumon, Guam. This is Kandit News. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and Facebook. Please like and share this. We don't care about the algorithm anymore. We're tired of that algorithm. So we're just going to say, please do share this live cast to the timelines, to your timelines and to the pages that you're on. We would greatly appreciate it. On YouTube, please share the link. On your Twitter, Instagram, the Facebook.
On the Facebook, we actually this past week, Kandit has been getting a lot of new viewers and followers, and we are actually up 9,330 followers. So
Oh, cool.
we're 600 and something, some odd number away from 10,000.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right.
So, yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
So
We really
even with the
appreciate that.
algorithms, even with however they want to suppress us, please, thank you guys. We couldn't have done it without you.
That noise in the background, those are my dogs. They figured out that we are going live, so they decided to cramp my style. That's the puppy right now. That's the puppy. Welcome to our news. Now, we have a ton of news, and for those of you who haven't done so already, please visit our website, www.candidnews.com. Scroll to the bottom and subscribe to Candid News. You'll get our news first. Like, as soon as we type out the stories and press publish, you get the news first. And then if you'd like to get the news right, if you don't want to sign up under the website, but you'd rather get your news through WhatsApp, you can WhatsApp me at 456-4237. And I will add you, just as long as you save me as a contact, whatever name you want to give me, you know.
You can put any kind of name on WhatsApp.
Any kind
Anything.
of name. So you
I
can
don't
call
know
me
what kind
Patricia,
of name she's using.
spam, that faggot.
You can make all, yeah, because fake profiles do matter. Okay?
And so if you send me your number, if you WhatsApp me at 456-4237, your number, make sure you save me as a contact under you, and I'll save you as a contact. Give me your name and your first name and last name. If you want to give me a fictitious name, that's cool too. I'll save you under a fictitious name. That's fine. My boyfriend won't ask any questions, and
Not like mine.
and we'll get you the news that way as well. We've been busy, so let's get
Troy's
started.
been really busy,
No,
guys.
we've all been very busy. Let's get started with the good stuff.
There is a story in Guam PDN today on Archdiocese of Agana seeks court approval to pay lawyers $452,000 in bankruptcy case.
Okay.
If you were, and this is from Heidi Eugenio Gilbert on PDN,
Okay.
that if you recall, Troy, the bankruptcy judge, right? Judge Tidinko Gatewood and whoever else.
The one from Hawaii, I think, right?
Okay, wait. They brought this up. They asked them at the time they were hiring these lawyers. How are they going to pay them? The money needs to be saved for the claimants. Do you remember that issue? It was a couple months ago.
Yes.
When all of this started. So here it is. Now the Archdiocese, of course, wants to pay. It says the Archdiocese of Agana is seeking federal court approval to pay $452,673.37 to 4 sets of attorneys working on its bankruptcy case. The Archdiocese sought reorganization bankruptcy protection in January because of the clergy's sex abuse claims demanding more than $1 billion in combined minimum damages. In separate court filings on Friday, the Archdiocese sought approval for the following compensation: $325,000 for bankruptcy attorneys Elsa Cesar Anderson, $103,000 for special counsel John C. Terlahi, $19,000 for special insurance counsel Blank Rome LLP, $4,165 for special counsel Patterson Fobbs and Leitch Inc. A hearing is set for October 18 in federal court. Nearly 280 clergy sex abuse claims have been filed since Guam lifted in 2016 the statute of limitations for child sex abuse. The Archdiocese is trying to the claims with a settlement conference set for October 30 and 31.
They better stop taking my money.
So I've been following this, and the only reason why I've been following it is because it affects you, right? So I remember specifically the judge talking about what they're going to be. Why would you need all these lawyers when you need that money to pay these claimants? So that
Yeah, the
that
judge
really
did ask that question,
Remember?
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember
yes. I remember
kind of
this.
like spanking them too,
Yeah.
right?
Like, why would you need that person and why do we need this? Yeah. So that's why this caught my eye.
So now they're kind of like invoicing
Right.
the whole
asking for
trust and
permission
all
to
that?
pay them now.
So they
And I
use
guess
their
they need-
services already.
Yeah, because of whatever the case is, but they want to get paid before the end of October because all these cases they're trying to make sure it's settled by October 31st.
They need to stop fighting this. You just start signing those checks away.
And then the next thing on what is this segment called?
The good stuff.
The good stuff
Yeah.
is a letter from Richard W. Fee, and it's an opinion letter on Guam PDN. And
Okay.
I thought it was interesting. At some point, the people of Guam have to decide if they can afford one more GMH scandal. The building is falling apart, elevators constantly breaking down and endangering patient safety, experienced doctors coming and going due to lack of support or pay, and even loss of reasonable professional accreditation. And now the news, the GMH administration failed to submit payroll taxes for years, or roughly 8.7 million is the final straw. A few years ago, they were so behind in taxes that a number of employees could not even retire. The Calvo administration let them off the hook by letting GMH take this debt out of the government's imaginary allotment. Upon discovery of this oversight, GMH's embarrassed administrator, Lillian Perez Posadas, got rid of Benita Minglotnia, the chief financial officer. She and the governor made it clear that this debt was for years 2014 to 2018 and that GMH has paid all taxes during her administration in 2019. How can you pay current taxes and ignore previous taxes? As a former administrator of a major agency, I am shocked that this 8.7 million debt was not noticed by the administrator and the board over 5 years. Major item for discussion. I would imagine that the budget update would be part of every manager's meeting, especially since GMH is always short of money. It would be a major item for discussion at every board meeting, and honestly, it should have been a major item on every agenda of the Legislative Oversight Committee. All we ever hear about is that GMH needs $10 million to $30 million to fix electrical panels, buy medication, pay doctors, pay rooms, fix elevators, etc. And no one mentioned that, by the way, we also need to catch up on paying payroll taxes. In Guam style, the chief financial officer graciously, without any fanfare, simply stepped aside in disgrace. Sorry, this is the final straw. If the administrator and the board did not know there was an outstanding debt of $8.7 million over a 5-year period, then it is time for them to submit their resignations, or maybe the governor needs to fire them immediately for gross malfeasance. I said that right? It might even be appropriate to file criminal charges for mismanagement of public funds. The former administrator was very open about GMH's inability to pay the payroll taxes, including retirement contributions. They simply did not pay them. This new discovery shows the incredible level of incompetency of the administrator and the board. There has been a need for an excuse to clean house at GMH due to, well, the fact that it is poorly run, third world hospital, but this latest embarrassment highlights the time is now.
This is a very well-written article by someone who very much knows the inner workings of GMH and government finances. I recognize the name, I just can't put my finger on it or where he was an administrator of a big agency. But I appreciate the points he makes, and I appreciate that he has brought some accountability more toward the current administrator, Lillian Perez-Posadas, and the board. When we discussed this, I didn't even think about the board, that the board of directors also is culpable.
That we were just at the Guam Election Commission. What was the first thing on their agenda when we walked in there? They were talking about their finances and how they're short and they need $600,000, right? Isn't that what they discuss at every board meeting?
It is. And to be fair to the last board and the last administrator, it was such a big public discussion that the governor even sent a hearse down to the legislature about the needs of GMH. Well, I think the only thing this guy leaves out is the culpability of senators. Senators are the ones who.
No, he says it.
Does he say to fire senators?
No, he says that he says that the legislature, they should talk about it at the oversight hearing all the time. The oversight committee.
What they need to do is appropriate the money to pay for those payroll taxes, because obviously the legislature failed to provide GMH the funding that it needed in order to make it. And I'm not entirely sure how much GMH is able to cut in terms of their payroll expenses or any other expenses it has, but I don't think it can afford to cut $8.7 million. And so it wasn't news. And he points out that it's not news that Peter John Camacho, the former administrator, and Benita Magnolia knew about this because they said something about it. They were very vocal about it.
I remember at the last year at the GMH board when they were in front of the legislature, it was a big issue.
Yeah.
And we followed that.
And he makes a great point. He's saying they said something about it. Why didn't the current administrator? And now you're saying the board. Good point. Why didn't the current administrator and the board say something about it? These are very good points that Richard Fee makes in the editorial that he writes in the Pacific Daily News. Was this published today?
Yes.
Published
A couple
today.
days ago. But it's awesome. I read this twice.
It's called letter: GMH administrator, board must go. It's in guampdn.com. Guys should go take a look at it. Speaking of the Archdiocese, I went to Mass tonight.
Thanks.
And I'm not trying to have my guardian angel pat me on the back. Although
Your guardian angel might give you some fireworks.
I will brag that I now have a clean slate. So this is an entire week of sinning to do, because I am a sinner.
When we don't really think about it, we don't really sin during the week.
We talk shit about people.
If it's the truth, it's not a sin.
But they never, ever hear about it. So it's not
They
like we ever
always
hurt
hear
them.
about it. They always hear about it.
And if it's the truth, then it shouldn't hurt your feelings.
Right.
Because God said, don't be prideful. And pride was actually okay, check this out. This was I was very inspired by what Father, what is his name? He's like Puerto Rican or Colombian or something.
I know who you're talking about. Michael? Or?
No, he has a white name. You're right. Father Harold. Father Harold said in his homily. Well, the gospel was this. It's in Luke chapter 16, verses 1 through 13. I remembered it. I was reading the book because I walked into Mass late, and it was already the homily, and so I was like looking through the book real fast, and I made sure to note this down. There was a rich man. So Jesus said to his disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and charges were brought to him that this man was wasting his possessions. And he called him and said to him, what is this that I hear about you? Turn in the account of your management, for you can no longer be manager. And the manager said to himself, what shall I do, since my master is taking the management away from me? I am not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I have decided what to do, so that when I am removed from management, people may receive me into their houses. So, summoning his master's debtors one by one, he said to the first, how much do you owe my master? He said, 100 measures of oil. He said to him, take your bill and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, and how much do you owe? He said, 100 measures of wheat. He said to him, take your bill and write 80. The master commended the dishonest manager for his shrewdness. For the sons of this world are more shrewd in dealing with their own generation than the sons of light. And I tell you, make friends for yourselves by means of unrighteous wealth, so that when it fails, they may receive you into the eternal dwellings. One who is faithful in very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in very little is also dishonest in much. If then you have not been faithful in the unrighteous wealth, who will entrust to you the true riches? And if you have not been faithful in which is another's, who will give you that which is yours, your own? No servant can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and money. So there's this confusion about this passage or this parable that Jesus tells, right? Because it seems to celebrate dishonesty, because the steward or the manager gets into the good graces of his master again by cheating the master out of what the debtors owe the master, right? And so Father Howard was explaining that's actually not the point of the whole thing, because dishonesty is dishonesty, but who is not dishonest in this world? He says the point is shrewdness. It is what's that term? He used a freaking term, not acumen. Anyway, so it's shrewdness. It's cunning. It's this cunning nature that the master is commending and recognizing. And so in work, in life, when we're trying to put food on the table, there are decisions that we have to make. And sometimes we have to be cunning. We have to be smart about it. We have to survive in this world. And so what Jesus is telling us is why can we not apply that same cunningness in our relationship with Christ and in our journey to get to heaven, is to be cunning as well, because the ultimate cunningness or cunning or whatever the term is. I thought this was a very beautiful way of explaining the whole thing. The ultimate cunning was Christ's death on the cross and his resurrection, because the devil thought that if he got all the people who Pontius Pilate and the Jews and everyone to condemn Christ and put him on the cross, it killed God. But God outsmarted the devil with his cunningness by raising Christ, and Christ knew.
Paving the way for all of us,
Yes.
that we were sinners.
But Christ knew, he placed his faith in God, that he would be resurrected, that he would be saved and brought into eternal life. And it was from that act of cunning that the rest of us now have that salvation. And so therefore, in our lives, as we apply this cunningness to survive, is that even a word, cunningness? As we apply this cunning to survive, let's also be that shrewd in our desire to join Christ on the cross. And what that means is that we all have a cross to bear. And Chelo, I am your cross to bear because I am not cunning. So you are that for me.
Yeah, but Troy thinks that my cunning comes from meeting with the devil once a week.
Once a week, yo. At least. You have no idea. Brilliant over here, this one. So we all have our cross to bear, right? And so if you are cunning about it, you bear that cross, and even if it makes you sad, and Father Harold said these are the times when we should shine the most, the light should come out of us the most, is when we bear our cross. We are almost happy to bear our cross. We are grateful to bear our cross and do everything it takes to overcome that, to overcome the burden, and to make our sacrifice, make our contribution.
That is
to the world.
amazing because for the past year, we've been bearing it all. The skeletons are in our closet, letting people use us as a way out of whatever darkness they're in. And a lot of it has to deal with recovering from drugs.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So these are my skeletons. This is the darkness that's in me, and I need help overcoming that.
Yes.
So everyone else out there that says, "Oh, but those two are just druggies. Why do you listen to those druggies?" You know what? What else are we? You know?
We are present on the island during the dengue crisis.
We are the ones that are fighting for your information to be put out there because the government isn't doing it.
Amen. Sister. Amen.
Troy today said he felt like he was the Joint Information Center. And I sat there and I thought, he's so right. He is pushing and pushing and pushing to get the information. And the information is not for him. The information is for every one of us that are out there with children and our home. From the jump, he's been trying to get information out there.
We have.
So thank you in your cunningness to help everybody.
There's probably in the comments someone telling us whether cunningness is a word. We appreciate the correction.
I'll just take the cunt.
And with that, we're going to take a break because we have a very long segment of news called Gupu Gobyetnu, everything from tax refunds to the Medicaid cliff to everything dengue.
last I
I find no issue with it because, I just got back from the state auditors conference and my jaw dropped because the average salary right now that all state auditors are paying is $50,000. I asked this question, I said, what? Straight out of college, no experience, $50,000. Most of their management team are upwards of $100,000. And
But once that $50,000 salary is
I
straight
have
out...
no qualms
wait,
with
let's-
paying that. I think it's worth it.
The additional bonus on top of the increase that you're now getting because you managed to get through the legislature are concurrence that we're going to adopt the Kerry study. And for the office with the 10 employees that you have or whatever number you have, you need 60,000 for the certification or pay, or is that's in the event somebody
No,
else gets
that's
a...
already funded. That's already funded. That's already in our, that's, if you turn to the schedule, we're talking 60,264 is the certification pay for 1, 2, 3, 6 individuals.
Okay. I have nothing further. We stand in recess until...
Mr. Speaker, if I just may say, you and I both are very passionate. And I'll miss this exchange. Thank you.
I will need an additional $70,000 just to pay for the certification pay for those on my staff that are qualified. It wasn't in my budget request because I didn't ask for it. But if this legislature is going to leave it in the budget, then I will have to comply and provide them with their certification adjustment, and that would cost the office an additional $70,000. So I just point that out. But I can't tell you how wonderful the 5 Auditor 3s that stepped up to take over the management team of the office has been, and how smoothly it has run since then. They've taken over, and I feel so bad that they can't get one. We can't reclassify 3 of them, 4 of them. I mean, because all promotions and increments were suspended during the fiscal year. So I can't do any reclassifications and give them increments as minuscule as it is by comparison. But it is the Office of Public Accountability, and we have to live within the law, and we will live within the law. And if it is provided to us, we'll provide it to them. If it's not, then we'll have to tell them that it's not going to be provided.
I'm here to ask senators for $70,000. That's my favorite one. That's a talk about humble pie. Though I do love Public Auditor B.J. Cruz. He's one of our best statesmen that we've ever had in the history of this island. I just love that commercial that we put together. The Department of Revenue and Taxation workers are done processing refunds for those who filed through April 15. They now are working on tax returns filed April 18. The checks will be delivered to the Department of Administration tomorrow, where they will be audited for the availability of funds. Governor Lulian Guerrero announced last week, Monday, that tax refund checks for those who filed through March 31 would be sent out by the end of last week. Those checks were prepared by DRT Tuesday night and sent to DOA Wednesday morning. Ms. Leon Guerrero held the release of the checks until Friday last week, though not all the checks were mailed. A second batch of checks for refunds that cover A-status returns filed through March 31 are expected to be mailed tomorrow. It is unclear whether funds are available to pay the refunds for those who filed between April 1 and April 15 this year. It also is unclear how much money in total was owed to taxpayers for the April 1 through April 15 tax refunds, or how many taxpayers will benefit from the return of their money. Governor's spokeswoman Crystal Paco has not returned calls or emails for comment. Governor's Director of Communications, Janela Carrera, continues to be on leave. Meanwhile, as previously reported on Kandit, Congressman Mike San Nicolas introduced a measure in the House of Representatives that will force the government of Guam to pay tax refunds within weeks of filing. His House Resolution 4262 will make it impossible for the governor to hold on to cash that the law earmarks for the repayment of taxes overpaid to the government. Ms. Leon Guerrero has expressed her frustration with this measure and her opposition to it, citing her perceived attack on the island's self-government. Mr. San Nicolas has quipped that the notion of self-government can be fulfilled if the governor did her job and paid the refunds faster. No senator has yet to support Mr. San Nicolas' measure, despite their campaign promises to ensure the timely payment of refunds. I had to laugh at that part. It's okay. The untimely payment of refunds is not funny, but whenever the administration fires at Congressman Mike San Nicolas, I just wait by my phone. I wait by my phone and I'm like, oh, what good thing is he gonna come up with?
I'm not even worried about it anymore.
Yeah,
I'm not.
yeah. Well,
And I'm so glad. I'm so glad we let the chips fall where they fell. You know?
So there are a bunch of people who filed up to March 31 who have not received the refund yet.
Right.
Because a bunch of checks haven't been sent out.
Only half went out.
Even though the money is in the bank.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of, is there any more money to pay the April 1 through April 15 refunds? And the problem that Kandit is having,
Was that sent out just to confuse everybody?
which one?
That it was processed up to April 15th? Was that in a news release or
No, no,
something?
no.
No, we just found out on our own.
Yeah, that's the
oh,
source.
okay. Okay.
So, and we're happy that the source told us, because now we know that Reverend Tax is...
Did their job.
Yeah, the Reverend Tax did their job.
Great
Now
job, Daphne.
Now it's DOA,
Yeah.
you know?
It's the governor. She needs to sign that, to release the money. And
Forever.
let's not forget, every day that money stays in the bank, I believe it was Dr. Widdenbach Santos that suggested that we should make a law that says any interest made off the government's money, the people's money, should go right back into...
I saw that. It actually already is a law. It's called the Income Tax Refund Efficient Payment Trust Fund. That law was created by Carl Gutierrez back in 1991, I think it was.
Okay.
And it was when Governor Ada's administration was using, because back then, that's the last time that tax refunds were accumulating in the account like it's supposed to, right? And so it was actually building interest in the savings account that it was. And so Governor Ada, because the law never said anything, was using the interest to pay for pet projects. And so Senator Carl Gutierrez saw that and was like, no. The legislature has dominion over that, and so they made a law. The trust fund, or the interest that we're talking about that's accruing from this trust fund, is interest that the Federal Reserve Bank pays to the Bank of Guam itself for excess deposits. So that's actually that would require a federal law or something to change, or some change from the Bank of Governor, or the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve
The
Bank.
Bank of Governor
Bank-
Lulian Guerrero.
The Bank of Governor.
Are we ready for the next?
We are. Sorry, I was just starting my watch party. I forgot to do that. We're ready. Let's do this.
Medicaid cliff, Congressman San Nicolas and his colleagues are rescuing Guam and the territories from the Medicaid cliff, which the governor has yet to even disclose to the public. Mr. Siniclis informed Kandit that the House of Representatives this week passed a continuing authorization that will stave off the shutdown of Medicaid program in the territories until November 21. It's a temporary relief, but relief nonetheless, while members of Congress consider House Resolution 3631. H.R. 3631, as we previously reported, is authored by Florida Congressman Darren Soto and co-sponsored by Mr. Siniclis and his colleagues from the territories. It authorizes Medicaid to the territories from fiscal year 2020 forward, increases funding to each territory, and removes the matching requirement of local money to each Medicaid dollar given to Guam in the first 2 years.
So the congressman saved the day. Oh, and his colleagues.
Yes.
In the House of Representatives.
I just want to let everybody know how we came across this story.
Oh, the congressman sent it to us. Today. It was like...
No, where we found it, why we questioned it.
Oh, I don't even remember.
Remember how I'm supposed to go look at regional news, national news?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I opened Mariana's Variety in Saipan, and I was going over their why is this facing at me?
Oh, because my watch party's watching you.
Oh, hi.
On the job.
I was going over their news in Saipan in the CNMI, and I read it, and I'm like, what do you mean it's going to end September 30? Wait a minute.
We never heard anything about it.
It says CNMI and Guam. Hey, that's us. Hey, let me check that.
And she was like, Troy, Shallow, check this out.
Bingo.
And I
Under
was like, what?
069. Under the 069. Bingo.
It's amazing that the governor still hasn't said anything about this Medicaid cliff.
But she's getting on the plane on Thursday to go to I don't know, guys.
All right, let's get to our next story. One of the recently announced confirmed cases of dengue is a student at Ordot Chalampago Elementary School. Another is a student at Harvard Christian Academy. It is unclear at this time whether any of the confirmed cases of dengue infection reside in proximity to any other school. The governor's office and civil defense have refused to answer questions on the general location of the residences of the newly infected patients. They did give us villages earlier today, but they weren't specific about the general areas within the villages. The government also has refused to answer how many more are suspected of dengue infection and awaiting laboratory confirmation. Harvest Christian Academy sent a notice to parents of the school's closure due to the infection of one of its students and the need to spray insecticide at the campus. Emergency officials have not said whether the spraying will occur in the 200-meter radius surrounding the perimeter of the campus. Harvest Christian Academy, OCPES, and Agatha Johnson Middle School all will be closed tomorrow, September 23, for insecticide spraying and for gathering of mosquito samples by the Department of Public Health and Social Services Division of Environmental Health Vector Control Unit. In the message to HCA parents, the school informs them of the infection of the student and states, quote, "There is no way of confirming the exact location of the student when the mosquito bite occurred, but since the student attends Harvest, we are taking additional measures on our campus to protect our families," unquote. The message informs parents of the timeline of events leading to the decision to close the school tomorrow. HCA administration was informed of the infection Saturday afternoon. Since then, the school administration had been in close contact with public health and governor's office officials who have been advising the HCA team. School officials quickly mobilized their response to include assistance from emergency response officials. Department of Education Superintendent John Fernandez said in a news release from the Joint Information Center, quote, "We urge our students and families to educate themselves on the dengue virus and the importance of mosquito control efforts." The information needed to educate students and families was disseminated by the superintendent last week, Thursday, 7 days after the superintendent was notified of the first infection and 4 weeks after the first confirmed case was reported by public health officials. The incubation to confirmation period of the OCPES student leads back to the approximate mosquito bite date that coincides with the period when Mr. Fernandez learned of the first confirmed case of the Agada student on September 12. Mr. Fernandez was told of the infection that evening and did not make a decision to close both Agada and OCPES the following school day, Friday, September 13. We have reached out to Mr. Fernandez and his public information, Isa Baza, regarding this lapse in judgment. Mr. Fernandez told Kandit that the decision had to be made in concert with Public Health Director Linda DeNorsi and Governor Lulian Guerrero, and that at the time that decision was not made. Kandit, however, reached out to Civil Defense spokeswoman Jenna Blas, who told us that the decision was Mr. Fernandez's to make. A review of the Education Board adopted Standard Operating Procedures number 1300-002 shows that Mr. Fernandez owns the decision to close schools in order to protect students from disease outbreak. Neither he nor Ms. Baza have returned a request for response on the violation of the department's own protocols as of the writing of this story. Actually, in a story that's upcoming, we're going to update you with information from Mr. Fernandez regarding this protocol. Unlike the detailed information and timeline presented to the HCA school community, the news release from the government that was sent to all public school parents this morning only mentions the new infection of one OCPES student and does not provide any other information for that school community regarding that infection. Mr. Fernandez sent the news release to all public school parents. The release invites parents to an informational briefing by the superintendent tomorrow, Monday, September 23, at 6 p.m. at the DOE headquarters in Teton. Oh, it's to her.
DeNorsi left Guam today for a conference in the States amid growing dengue crisis that she's supposed to be in control of. Governor Lulian Guerrero granted her leave. Her office said she will meet with U.S. Department of Health and Human Services officials about the outbreak on Guam. Both Ms. DeNorsi and Ms. Leon Guerrero have been under fire for their handling of the crisis, which went from one suspected case in August 19 to a full-blown outbreak today. Ms. DeNorsi is the Director of Department of Public Health and Social Services. Her deputy, Lauren Duenas, will assume her duties, to include commanding the crisis. Ms. Duenas is a college professor and nurse by trade. Ms. Leon Guerrero also is a registered nurse.
Public Health Director Linda DeNorsi may not be the only person leaving Guam in the middle of the growing dengue crisis. Governor Lulian Guerrero is scheduled to speak before the Guam Heritage Association of Nevada on September 28, which is this coming Saturday. The governor's office has not confirmed whether Ms. Leon Guerrero will be changing her travel plans in consideration of the public outcry for leadership during these times. Ms. DeNorsi, who is in charge of managing and controlling the spiraling outbreak, left Guam this morning to attend a conference in Washington, D.C. According to a release by the governor's office, while there, Ms. DeNorsi will speak with U.S. HHS officials regarding resources needed to combat the outbreak on Guam. Neither the governor's office nor the Guam legislature has prepared any bills to appropriate more local funding needed to address the dengue outbreak. In response to our inquiry on the governor's travel plans, Governor's Director of Policy, Carlo Branch, told Kandit News, quote, "The governor is and will continue to govern on Guam." We've since found out that the governor's travel schedule runs from September 26 to October 11 this year. Back to you, Chelu.
Thanks, Chedo. The education superintendent will be considering requests from parents who do not want to send their kids to school for fear of infection. Quote, "I will take this up with my management team and the board and see what makes sense for our families," end quote. John Fernandez told Kandit News regarding questions from parents on whether they would be in violation of the truancy laws if they decide not to send their kids to school. Emergency management officials have confirmed that dengue-infested zones or the villages where patients confirmed to have dengue infection reside now include Manilao, Derido, Jigo, Ornat Chalampago, Harmon, and Totu. The majority of the island schools are located in these villages. Mr. Fernandez, unlike Public Health Director Linda DeNorsi and Governor Lulian Guerrero, is canceling a trip from America Samoa this week. He is the chairman of the Regional Education Lab for the Pacific, and the meeting of this organization he leads was scheduled to be held in America Samoa. It's important to do what we can to keep everyone informed about how GDOE is working to keep our schools safe and about what we can all do to prevent the spread of dengue fever on Guam, Mr. Fernandez said regarding his reasons for canceling the trip. Ms. DeNorsi left Guam this morning. Ms. Leonguero is scheduled to leave Guam Thursday, September 26, and come back to the island October 11. The governor's office has not responded as to whether Ms. Leonguero will cancel her trip in light of the outcry for leadership in this growing crisis. However, Governor's Director of Policy, Carlo Branch, told Kandit that the governor is and will continue to govern on Guam. Mr. Fernandez also took the opportunity to clarify shifting information as to whose responsibility it has been to inform the public and the school's community amid growing frustration and confusion with lack of or belated information so far. During an incident of communicable or reportable disease, Board Policy 33.6 requires GDOE to provide information based on parameters set forth by DPHSS. GOD Standard Operating Procedure 1200-004 further specifies that DPHSS must authorize advisories or communications to parents regarding communicable diseases. SOP 1300-002 Emergency Response Plan procedures that you referred to also specifies that in situations where two or more agencies are activated, the Joint Information Center takes the lead in providing public information. For this reason, GDOE has worked closely with DPHSS and the JIC to try and encourage the release of information to the general public. We want to ensure that accurate and timely information is provided, and because GDOE is not the expert on dengue disease, we rely heavily on the advice and guidance of DPHSS and its experts. However, it is our position to get accurate information out as soon as possible and as widely as possible. Based on developments this past week, we believe that there is a need to provide as much information as possible to all members of the public so that we can all take measures to protect ourselves and especially our children from contacting dengue fever. For this reason, we proposed holding an information session on Monday evening at the TDEN headquarters for our parents and employees at OCPES and Agata to provide them with the information we have and to answer any questions. We will have medical professionals on hand to deliver the presentation. We hope this will be the first of several sessions held by GDOE to address the concerns of our education stakeholders.
Just so you know, Chalu,
What happened?
Davina Benavides, just on my watch party, she asked regarding that informational briefing that they're inviting all the parents to go to. She's asked, will they provide off spray? You know, I was thinking the same thing. You're asking parents to come out of their homes, get into their cars, drive to Tidzen, get out of their cars. So the exposure to mosquitoes increases.
Oh, now they want to have this is my own personal opinion. This is not candid. Now they want to have a meeting. Huh? You a day late and $1 short, buddy.
There's a lot to discuss from that story alone, but let's get to the next story. The government's emergency response officials have not consulted yet with School Superintendent John Fernandez on the need to close schools in the villages where dengue infection now resides. Mr. Fernandez is monitoring the situation and encouraging public health officials to give him the latest and most informed guidance as to whether he should shut down any or all schools, aside from Ordot Chalampago Elementary School and Agata Johnson Middle School. Those schools will be closed tomorrow, September 23. Mr. Fernandez provided Kandit with information regarding the government's failure to advise on the threat to the Agata Johnson and OCPES schools communities when first advised September 12 of patient 0, a 12-year-old Agata Johnson student. Yesterday, September 21, the government released information that 6 more people on Guam tested positive for dengue. One of them is an OCPES student. The school is within a 200-meter radius of Agata Johnson Middle School. Quote, yes, it is in my authority to determine when to close schools. However, in a public health emergency, it is important to do this in concert with the information from DPHSS, said Mr. Fernandez. When I first learned about the Agata student, I inquired whether the protocol required school to be closed. I was informed that because the student would not be at school and because there was no information regarding whether the individual may have contracted the disease, there was no need to close the school. However, over the weekend, as I learned more regarding the spraying and more about the disease, I decided late Sunday evening, after being apprised of the progress of the spraying, to close both OCPES and Agata in order to allow the completion of the spraying and to get information out to parents and employees before they reported back for school. I made the decision in consultation with the board, and we thought it best to close and try to answer questions and concerns without parents and employees having to worry about the school day. We provided information to students to bring home beginning last Tuesday. Posters were distributed to all schools. A follow-up letter went to all schools later in the week. We also provided guidance to administrators regarding the cleanup of school sites and relaxation of the uniform policy. That's a statement from School Superintendent John Fernandez. Mr. Fernandez is waiting on the Emergency Operations Center and the Joint Information Center on what to do about the schools within the vicinity of dengue infection zones. Deredo is home to Okudu High, Astumbo Elementary, Astumbo Middle, Finnegodzin Elementary, Weddingale Elementary, Maria Ujoa Elementary, Beneventi Middle, and Liguan Elementary Schools. Gigo is home to Simon Sanchez High, FB Leon Guerrero Middle, UP Elementary, and DL Perez Elementary Schools. Mangilao is home to the University of Guam, Guam Community College, George Washington High, Price Elementary, and Atacao Elementary Schools. Ordot and Chalampago are home to Agata Johnson Middle and Ordot Chalampago Elementary Schools. Carbolito Elementary School is within the vector zone of the perimeter of Totu. John F. Kennedy High School and Chief Brody Elementary Schools are directly across the street from Harmon. These are not to mention the several private schools within these areas, the Mangilao Correctional Facility and the Youth Correctional Facility in Mangilao. Officials finally answer, sorry, that was the subtitle. Kandit received responses to 3 questions we sent to Bertha Tyron, spokeswoman for the Department of Public Health and Social Services. The questions and their answers follow. What is the government doing about the ponding bases of standing water throughout the island? The answer from Ms. Tyron is, in today's briefing, there were discussions to address ponding basins in high-risk areas by clearing debris around the area. Just so you know, this issue is only now being addressed in today's briefing. These questions and the idea about ponding basins being areas of standing water were presented by Kandit yesterday morning. The specific mosquito that can carry the dengue virus mostly breeds in smaller water areas such as artificial containers that collect water, for instance, tires, flower pots, garbage cans, etc., rather than large areas of water like ponding basins. However, partner agencies are working together to address debris near ponding basins in high-risk areas to eliminate the breeding sites for the specific mosquitoes that can carry the dengue virus. The second question to Bertha or to Ms. Tyron that we posed was, since the patients are not in isolation, are those who care for them provided any kind of protective apparel or gear to prevent mosquito infection considering the proximity? Ms. Tyron responds, patients are advised to stay inside an air-conditioned room or use a bed net or insect repellent while febrile, I don't know, Febrile, to avoid infecting mosquitoes that can infect others. Once a person no longer has a fever, they are no longer infectious to mosquitoes. The Division of Environmental Health's mosquito surveillance team provided insect repellent and mosquito nets to the vulnerable population that was identified during the assessment. All people on Guam should avoid mosquito bites. This includes the caregivers of confirmed cases. Patients and their caregivers are provided information on the proper protective measures they can take at home. For instance, protective layers of clothing, spraying insect repellent, and remaining indoors to further reduce the spread of dengue. There is no specific personal protective equipment for mosquito avoidance. However, all in Guam are encouraged to cover exposed skin with clothing and use repellent to avoid mosquito bites. Also avoid spending time in areas with mosquitoes. Also avoid spending time in Guam, like the governor and the public health director. And the final question we asked her are Are medics who transport suspected cases of patients provided with protective gear to avoid mosquito transmission considering proximity? Ms. Tyron's response was same response as above. So the medics should probably take a trip with Linda Dorsey to Washington, D.C. in order to avoid mosquito bites. Back to you, Chalu.
Tourism and spending report. Hold on. Oh, wait, time out.
Oh, technical errors. Pardon us.
Dispense a light. Tourism has yet to be affected by news of the dengue outbreak on Guam. The governor's office is going to ignore the law requiring the governor to report her expenditures of emergency public funds on dengue, and tires being dumped at Global Recycling on Batula Road from dengue-infested collection sites aren't being sprayed at the dump site. Kandit last week asked Governor Leon Guerrero whether Guam Visitors Bureau is reporting cancellations of tourist reservations to Guam in the wake of the growing dengue crisis. The governor acknowledged the concern and said she would check with GVB for answers on this. This afternoon, Governor's Director of Policy, Carlo Branch, told Candid News, there seemed to be no real change in our arrival and booking flow. A lot of our tourism mix is wholesale travel and is booked weeks or months in advance. We are monitoring the situation, but I'm aware that all statistics are a lagging indicator. Governor's office needs time to submit report. Governor's office needs time to submit report. Last night, Kandit reported the absence of a required report due to the legislature September 18, detailing the expenditures Ms. Leon Guerrero has made since her declaration of an emergency September 13. The Speaker's office was even unaware of the law on this. Mr. Branch told Kandit the BBMR is aware of both the statutory provision and the requirement in the executive order. Both provisions require that the report be submitted 5 days after such transactions. These transactions are ongoing. As such, the report will come after the transactions attendant to the EO are fully executed. Batula Road residents concerned about dengue-infested refuse being dumped in their area, Leighton Borja, whose family lives along Batula Road in Derrido, took to Facebook this morning to report the residents of the area are becoming concerned about dumping of the dengue-infested refuse collected from other areas at nearby Global Recycling. The refuse, once dumped at the site along Batulu, which is a Chamorro Land Trust property, is not sprayed with insecticide to control the mosquito population. Mr. Branch sought to allay concerns, telling Candid of the tires and refuse. My personal understanding is that the goal is to limit breeding grounds as these vessels can hold standing water. Once they are emptied and protected from further standing water, they no longer pose a threat. It is unclear where else dengue refuse is being dumped throughout the island or whether these sites are being sprayed with insecticide to kill the mosquitoes.
So, actually, we have that video. I was supposed to prepare, but I was too busy looking at the comments.
I sent it to your WhatsApp.
Okay. That's right. We have a video of Mr. Borja. This is from his Facebook page.
You can just make it big. I don't mind that my name shows.
No, but it's still like rotating. Just so we can show you. Oh, here.
So, now all the fucking tires are across where my family lives, my friends and family, across Global Recycling. I have friends at Guru 501 and family at Guru 501 down the street from Global Recycling. And now they more higher risk of catching the dengue disease. And but global recycling is this, okay? It is a commercial business, right? On top of a Tomorrowland Trust property. The property was held in trust to the government, okay, for a factory that doesn't have land and stuff like that.
That's him.
All for a little amount of money. Certain people, agencies have allowed them to open up a business there, which is some shady stuff going on. But the thing is this, a zoning area should be kept strict, and business should be put in a commercial zoning area, not a residential. Now, I'm even scared to go to the ranch. I'm not scared to go to the ranch. To get bit. The only thing I'm really scared
Oh,
of.
wait, hold
okay,
on. I
is,
just stopped that. If you want to see the rest of Layton's.
No, it's up to 3 minutes.
Are we sure?
Yeah.
Didn't he say something like,
no.
oh, okay. Okay, go. You can go back to my screen.
It's up to 3 minutes, Shalom.
Okay.
Um,
The only thing I'm scared of.
is for my family that lives across global recycling, where now the tires that came from the infected areas are sitting, and the mosquitoes that are infected, if there are some there, it has a new breeding ground. I'm also afraid for the people the housing that stays down the road. I'm afraid for the kids that their immune system is not strong enough to be able to withstand the fever that the dengue brings and stuff like that. I'm still gonna go down to the ranch, feed my chickens with no shirt, and hopefully one bites me, so that way I can bring a major fucking lawsuit on Department of Land Management, on global recycling, and whatever agency was involved in bringing those hazardous items where the mosquitoes that was infected with the virus with. Well, anyways, let me just backtrack a little, okay? I am Layton Borja, okay? The only...
If you want to listen to the rest of that, which is very entertaining. So the first part was very serious. There are concerns on Batulu Road by the residents there.
Because all the tires and whatever waste is coming from Swamp Road, wherever there's infections, right? All of that waste, the cars, whatever global recycling accepts, and they accept the tires, we don't know if those tires were sprayed before, right? Before they took them out of there,
Yep.
or if they were even sprayed at all,
Yep.
or if they were just removed from there, emptied of water, and put there at the recycling center.
With the mosquitoes that followed.
Right.
We also don't know what other dumping sites there are. This is just one person telling us about global recycling being one of the dumping grounds. What about the dumping site behind Savannah Condominiums in Harmon, right at the foot of the airport?
Right.
Right? And aren't there some dumping sites in the south as well? Where refuse from, say, like Maguilao or Ordat Chalampago might be going.
saying it wrong. It's refuse. You
It's
didn't
like
even correct me, Chelu.
refuse. with the glotta
Redo.
above the E.
Redo.
Okay, there was a lot of information that went out in this last segment. First of all, are you sending your kids to school tomorrow?
I'm not.
And why is that?
Because they said Jigo,
And they didn't say where
They
in
didn't
Jigo.
say where, and I do not trust this government.
Okay. I think, and I just noticed that Mr. Fernandez is watching us. He is gonna try and find out from his management team and his board how they're gonna address this truancy issue, because I'm gonna imagine that there are a ton of parents like you who who are not going to send their kids to school tomorrow.
Well, come at me, bro. Come at me. Well, I've been following. I'm not just a parent, just hearing about this. I'm not. I've been following this from the get-go, and I am not. As a parent, I'm concerned. I'm really concerned because now they're gonna not make Agada. And what about last week? They were at school all week last week.
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense to me, and I don't. Now that it's in Jigo, and I'm from Jigo, I can handle what's around my house. I can burn at my own house. I can do whatever I can necessary at my own house. When I drop the kids off at school, I'm in no control of what's going on over there.
Yeah. And
So-
I think there are a lot of parents who feel the same way you do.
I don't until this is figured out. I'm not sending my kids to school.
So hopefully the superintendent is able to provide some guidance tomorrow, as early as tomorrow, on what to do about these schools. But as we've heard, that guidance needs to come from emergency management officials. They're the ones who, from the get-go, told him, you don't need to close the school. Don't worry about it, because it's an infection that's transmitted from person to person. They keep talking about this person-to-person thing like we're too dumb and we don't know that it's mosquitoes that carry it. We're like, well, I think you're the dumb one who isn't getting that the mosquito can bite an infected person and then carry it. And because you don't get this, government of Guam, we now have an outbreak.
We do, and the governor is getting ready. She probably has her luggage ready for her trip on Thursday.
I doubt it, Chelu, because if she does that, it's just over. I doubt. I bet she's going to cancel her travel plans.
At least you believe in her. One of us has to.
The last thing I wanted to do was play a video that someone sent me. It's of a doctor in the Philippines who.
That's not the last.
Oh, that's right. Shit, that's right. Let's do that one first.
Okay.
Tan Maria, right?
Yes, I got a message.
Or is it Tan Rosa?
It's Tan Chai.
Okay.
I received a message today, a personal message, and this is from a Sirahana. And if some of you don't know what that is, that's a Chamorro doctor or a Chamorro witch doctor?
Healer.
Healer, a Chamorro healer.
Recognized under the traditional healing arts on Guam now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she,
God bless
this lady has been busy. She is actually, she says she's treating 6 children,
Okay.
babies, infants, that she suspects has dengue fever.
Okay.
These are families that don't have health insurance. These are families that believe in the Chamorro remedy.
Okay.
So she wants us to get her phone number out in case she believes, this Chamorro healer believes that Guam has the medicine to take care of it. So if you believe in this, because I do, I believe in Chamorro healing. You guys can, her name is Tan Chai Rosalia Mateo, and can be reached on her mobile phone at 727-6799, and she is available Monday through Friday. And let me remind you, she's only available in the morning because that is the best time to give medicine, whether you're an adult or whether you're a child.
Is that almost possible right
Yes,
there?
it's I forget what it's called, but you can call her if it's something severe. She's willing to make changes to her schedule. So if you can please call her. If you don't want to, I'm not saying don't go to the hospital. I really think that because of this, you should go to the hospital, even if you don't have health insurance. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of federal law or local law. When we're in an emergency, they have no choice but to take care of you.
No, they do. They
Right?
do. It doesn't matter, emergency or not. If you walk into Guam Memorial Hospital, they cannot turn you away.
Okay, so guys, if you're afraid because you don't have any money or you don't have the health insurance, please, or if you believe in Chamorro healing and don't know where to go, Tan Chai, her name, her phone number is 727-6799. Please do. I'll put this up on our Facebook page.
6799.
Yeah.
6799.
Did I say that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So and right now she is healing 6 infants as we speak, and she didn't mention how many adults, but she is aware that we're sick. Guam is sick,
Thank you, Tenchai.
and she says there's something on the ground.
I've met her before.
There's something on the ground that she's feeling that's not right.
So the traditional healing arts is something that is recognized by the government of Guam, and it has its own regulatory commission as well. So lest anyone thinks that this is kooky medicine,
It's not.
Understand that it's something that's even recognized by the government of Guam.
Oh, okay, these are her words. She urges our island's people to step up and help fight this deadly virus, and says that we have the cure in our own backyard, nature's remedy, and should practice natural plant healing and keep our traditions going.
Very cool. Thank
So,
you.
and there, she's not asking for money, or, she didn't ask Kandit for money or anything like that. She just wants to get people. If people don't have a way out, she's a way out.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for that. And to close the night on a little bit of an explanation on how dengue affects people, we were sent this video of a doctor. Do you have a cello, or do I have to play it? Yeah. I have to play it? Yeah. Oh, shit. I have to find it. Hold on. Hang on. Oh, I think I downloaded it, right? No, I didn't.
I believe it's in our Kandit News messenger.
On Facebook?
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone. I didn't prepare for this. I forgot. Give us just a minute to figure this out. Do you have it?
I'm looking. There you go. That one, right?
Yeah, it's by our friend M, right?
Yeah. It's in your WhatsApp, M. I saw it earlier.
In my WhatsApp?
Yeah. Right? Oh no. Maybe not. I don't know how to make this bigger.
Is it this one? Yes,
Yes,
it's this one,
that's
right?
it. Yeah. You're gonna have to download it, Cello.
Go ahead and capture my screen.
Hi, my name is Dr. Richard Mata, and I would like to demonstrate to you how I explain dengue fever in a patient, especially when the patient was newly admitted and is inside a hospital, and of course the patient is worried, the members of the family are worried. So how do I explain dengue fever in a very simple way, so that their worries will decrease, and at the same time I will be able to teach them what to monitor so that the severity will be prevented. So I get a piece of paper, and this is what I do. So for example, this is the piece of paper. So I ask them if the fever, for example, the fever started on a Sunday. So I'll write here, Sunday. And then I say Sunday plus 6 days. So what is Sunday plus 6 days? The answer is Saturday. So that's the first thing that I do. And then I say, because in dengue fever, it's like you're a cellophane, plastic cellophane, with water in it, and it has holes in it. What does it happen if there are holes in a cellophane with water? Of course, the water will leak out. So what I'm trying to say is that the blood vessel, for example, is the blood vessel of a dengue patient, it has holes in it. That's what we call plasma leakage. The blood vessel has holes in it. So, because platelets are very small in sizes, it goes out through those holes. So that's what comes out, the platelets. So the reason why the platelets decreases is because the blood vessel has holes. It's like your holes has thousands of pinpoint holes everywhere, all over the body. So imagine that the platelets are going up. The second thing that comes out from those holes is the water. So there are two things that goes out through these holes, tiny holes, the platelets and the water. Now, these holes here will just disappear by itself on a specific time. What time would that be? It will disappear on day 6, on the 6th day. So if the patient develops fever on a Sunday, the holes is estimated to disappear on a Saturday. So why 6 days? Well, it's the normal healing time of a patient. Say for example, you have I have a wound like here on my face, and then you apply medicine, even the best medicine. You apply, for example, papaya leaves, if that's what you think. Do you think the wound will disappear tomorrow? Of course not. The next day, you know the wound will still be there. But after 6 days, we all know that the wound will just heal by itself. So that's the normal healing period. You cannot rush healing. There's a time for healing. So that's what the healing time needs. Number 2, the same way with a viral infection. Dengue is a virus. A virus comes in and usually stays around 6 to 7 days, and it goes out. So that's 2 reasons. Number 1 is the normal healing period, and at the same time, the time limit of a virus that stays in the body. Okay? So, going back to the picture, if the Sunday started with a fever for 6 days, then by Saturday, the holes will again decrease. That means if the platelet of the patient, for example, is 150, if it's not yet Saturday or the 6th day, naturally it will drop to 90. Then the next day will be around 65, for example, then around 45. Meaning the platelet really decreases every day until the 6th day, which is the Saturday. Then after the 6th day, it's gonna do a U-turn. It's gonna go up. So for example, 45, again it revises to 50, then goes to 60 gradually. That's the pattern of a platelet in dengue. It only drops for 6 days, then it does a U-turn by the 6th day. Okay, so the problem actually is not the platelets. Why? Because the platelet will just go down and then will do a U-turn on the 6th day. That's the reason why there are many herbals or plants like papaya in our country, tawa-tawa, or many other herbals that they thought is the cure, but it's not really the cure, because it's really natural that the platelet will increase on the 6th day. So because they don't know that, they thought it was the herbals that they were giving that the one that increased, but it's a natural increase actually. The thing here is this, the water. If the platelet decreases every day, which is natural, until day 6, and the water decreases as well, which we call dehydration, because as we know, water goes out from the blood vessels. If the patient develops dehydration, that where is the danger, because dehydration will cause injury to your intestine, which will cause ulcer formation. Now, if you have an ulcer formation, you'll start to bleed from your intestine, like you're gonna vomit blood, or in the stool you have blood. And because the platelet is low, there will be a severe bleeding. But if there was no dehydration, then there will be no ulcer formation. Therefore, even if the platelets are low, there will be no severe bleeding, because there was no formation of ulcer, which was triggered by a dehydration. So the bottom line is that if the patient is not dehydrated, even if the platelet is low, the patient will not go into danger. Other problems of dehydration is, of course, kidney failure and sudden shock because of lack of water. So bottom line, dengue is a dehydration disease. It's like diarrhea. You focus here. Many people focus here and they forgot this one. That's why many people die of dengue fever. Now, you may ask, how will I know if I'm dehydrated or not? Well, the easiest answer is this: urine. If you always urinate at least less than 4 hours with a clear urine, you're gonna survive dengue fever. So meaning, if you are hydrated properly, you will be urinating around 2 hours or even less, 3 hours. But if you're urinating 5 hours, 6 hours, there's a sign. I'm not saying that you're already dehydrated, but it is proper that should be ahead of it. And the same thing, if the urine color is clear, transparent yellow, that's a good color. But if it's dark yellow or orange or almost brown, that's already a sign of dehydration. So bottom line, it's not a worry if the platelet decreases as long as you're always urinating. So the same way in this picture, even if the cellophane leaks with water, if you can give enough water coming in more than the water coming out, you will achieve a balance. But if the water that comes out is lesser than the water that comes in, the level of water will go here until the cellophane collapses. So that is dangerous. So this is basically dengue management. Water goes in should be more than the water that goes out, which with a proof that the patient will always urinate. That's dengue fever management. Okay? With that, thank you very much.
Okay.